imagine a company that has all the best talent from around the world and they are volunteers. All the employees are volunteers. They work for free, and what the company does is just keep a record of who owns the company. That's effectively Bitcoin, apart from I shouldn't be using that word company, because it's not a company. It doesn't have a marketing department like every other version of, like, version 2 of Bitcoin or version 3 of Bitcoin. Scams, they're all scams. Apart from Bitcoin, that's the only thing that is true. Yeah, like your government vouchers, dollars, your money, that's been a Ponzi scheme since 1971, 1972, possibly even kind of before that, some people say. Like, for hundreds of years, thousands of years, it's kind of been a Ponzi scheme because it's been controlled by the bank. Like, even when it was coins, they would shave a little bit off, just take their cut. But now, like, since we went off the gold standard, what is money backed by? It's effectively backed by petrol or the army. So, the petrodollar, that's effectively backing the dollar now, because the American dollar is the global standard, and that's how it's traded. It is just backed against what? Like, it's debt. Money is debt. It's not backed. Like, that's how they create it. They just go into more debt. So it's systemic to society's, like, all of society's problems, I believe. Depression and all that. Like, because people know that the money's broken. It's not, like, back in the day, 50 years ago, you could, like, retire on $100,000 because there wasn't so much inflation. Well, it was gold. It's like under 3% a year, because you actually have to dig it out of the ground. You have to put in work to get gold. Diamonds, they are starting to get printed now. Like, you get artificial diamonds. They're somewhat even preferred over diamonds that are dug out of the ground, because otherwise they're blood diamonds. Government vouchers. Like, I've heard the term, people may call me like a Bitcoin maxi or a Bitcoin maximalist. I prefer the term fiat minimalist, although I do believe Bitcoin will be the dominant currency for, in like 5 years or something. I believe it will really be the dominant currency after we have a couple of bull runs, and it'll be around for a long time. The last Bitcoin mined will be in 2140. At the moment, there is 6.25 Bitcoin mined every 10 minutes. And that is halved every halving, which happens every 4 years. We're about just under 2 years away from the next halving, and that predominantly sees the price have a big spike because of supply and demand. There's half the amount of Bitcoin being released every, on the market. And some of you may not know, there's a limited supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. And what we're going for now, because Bitcoins used to be free, then they were 10,000 for 2 pizzas, and then they were $1, and yeah, now they're like 20,000 US for one. So it's a bit expensive to be like, I mean, for the unit of account, we're using Satoshis now, and that's what like El Salvador uses to buy milk and bread, kind of thing, or McDonald's. The only thing you would really use Bitcoin for is to buy a boat or a house, and because you want that kind of secure transaction. You don't, yeah. Whereas with Lightning, which is on the Bitcoin network, that is what most people will use because it's instant and a lot cheaper to transact. And so it's like your checking account, and Bitcoin is for your savings account. And Satoshis or Sats is, there's 100 million in a Bitcoin, and eventually, well, that's how people would be getting onboarded and using Bitcoin. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Some altcoiners, shitcoiners are into them because they're all about the technology, but it's just the same as fiat. It's worse than fiat. Like, they will have a lot of control, and people are gonna use it because they'll start giving out like dining vouchers. I've heard in New South Wales they'll just start giving out free money for you to go, or they call it service vouchers. They'll be giving away service vouchers for you to go and get your dinner. It's to stimulate the economy. But what I've heard mainly is they will give you possibly $5 for every dollar you trade in, and in 6 months they will give you $3 for every dollar you trade in, and then 6 months after that they'll give you nothing if you haven't traded in your dollars for the new digital currency. And with that currency they will be able to dictate what you spend it on, where you spend it. Like with lockdowns, it will only be able to be used at your local supermarket, or if they consider you obese or something like that, you won't be able to possibly buy fast food with your money. If you voted for the opposition, you may not have any money. CBDCs, start stacking sats, save in Bitcoin, and it is savings now because it's here. It's not gonna go away. Like back in the days, sure, used to be an investment, could possibly go to zero, maybe, money you don't mind losing, but now it's just long-term savings, 4 years plus kind of thing. And it will be here for generations. It will be here for your children's children. Another little note that I had. I got a few notes because I was going to interview a dude, but we're not going to happen today, so another day. And one of the notes that came up was happiness, and they were here. He was talking about it in a video with Safadine, and happiness there's an equation for happiness. It's your expectations versus reality. So, just think about that. Expectations versus reality equals how happy you are. This dude, Konza, he's into praxeology, which is, I believe, the study, human action. So kind of like sociology, but I believe more sociology is kind of like how their mind works, but praxeology, I believe, is like the human action. They were talking about understanding why the subway is busy in the morning and stuff like that. It's because people are going to work, or possibly like this afternoon in Melbourne. It's a public holiday. Around 3 p.m, I was told it should be pretty quiet, even though it's quiet now, because of the Melbourne races. Everyone will be at the races. So town will be real quiet. And yeah, there's this dude talking about Bitcoin being in the cloud. And I'm not too sure if he knows about nodes, because it's not in the cloud. People have nodes, and that, well, I kind of like to think, go back to plants. Plants have nodes. So if you take a cutting and the stalk, and there's a little bit of a node off it, and you put a bit of you plant that right, it's a replication of what you cut it off. It will completely grow the tree just from a cutting, from a node. So it's a copy of the whole system, Like it will grow the roots, it will grow everything. Like it's DNA, it's a copy of your DNA kind of thing, or a copy of the DNA. And a node, like a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node, that's a copy of the network. And if you've got two nodes that connect, then you've got a network, right? And people can hard fork off the main Bitcoin network and start off something like Bitcoin Cash or blah blah blah, and this, as long as there's somebody that has, somebody else has got a node that they're keen to do it, then you can do it. You can start off your own, go off into your own little ecosystem and do your own thing. If you want a bigger block size, at the moment it's always going to be 1 megabyte block sizes every 10 minutes, and that was reiterated by the block size wars in 2017. Keeping it 1 megabyte means effectively you can have a node using any old kind of computer. You just need a large hard drive. So nodes, not much computing power, so low cost to run a node because you're not using much power. You're just storing memory. So you have to have a large hard drive. Whereas a miner has no memory at all. It's just processing power. And yeah, it's just turning energy into Bitcoin. Electricity, effectively I call Bitcoin Energy 2.0, because if it's backed by anything, that's what it's backed by, The datum of civilization, of society, electricity. And that's why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin, because imagine if you knew about electricity back in the day when it first got discovered, and all your friends didn't have lights in their house or anything, and it's like, you've got lights in your house, you know about electricity, you can, maybe you've got a fridge, you've got a TV, you've got the internet, you kind of want to, if you didn't tell people about this technology, when your friends found out that you knew about it, you'd kind of be like, dude, why don't you tell me about I could have lights, That's what this is. You can have, is it property rights? Is it private property? It's like the only private property you can truly have and possess. real estate, you don't own it. You don't truly own it. It can be taken off you. It is taken off you. You know? And yeah, like gold that's been made illegal and stuff. And with this little thing, an open dime, that it even makes it physical like gold. It's kind of dumb, but like, because that's kind of the point is, gold, it's real hard to transport and stuff. But this little device, this little open dime, it's got Bitcoin on here, or more should I say, it's got sats on here. I went to a meetup in Melbourne, and this dude just handed them out at the end, and yeah, it's got like, 37,000 sats on there. You just plug it into a computer and you can move it off, and sure. He was mainly talking about doing coin joining, so making like putting them on there, and when you go to meetups, like swap them around, so then it's like more anonymous, like you harder to be traced that it's your Bitcoin, because that's the thing. Bitcoin is open and transparent, but if they know that it's your Bitcoin, you kind of got to clean it up, so make it anonymous so people can like put it in these mixing things. They mix all the coins up and move it all around. There's a few other ways around it, like I've heard mainly opening up a couple of different wallets on like you get a VPN and make a few wallets and then move the Bitcoin through those wallets, and mainly put up to like 1 million or 5 million Satoshis on one wallet, and just kind of have separate wallets of up to 1 million up to 5 million kind of Satoshis, and because that could be a pretty good amount for the future, but you just try and have them all clean. So there's somewhat of a thing as like your Bitcoin hygiene, and that's like this dude somewhat wanted this real technical dude that's got a node to check his Bitcoin hygiene, so see if he can find out like any information about where these Satoshis came from, like how big, like how much kind of Bitcoin he's got, which people do. Like, if you send somebody some Bitcoin or some stable coins, Tether or something like that, the person that you send it to is highly likely to have a little look to see where it came from and to see kind of like how wealthy you are. So yeah, and the next point is, it's like cars back in the day when they first arrived. Horses were still faster. People looked at these cars and were like, these are useless, what a piece of junk. But then we built roads, then we built motorways, and now, how many horses are around? How slow are they? Bitcoin is not blockchain. Blockchain was never mentioned by Satoshi Nakamoto. Never said that, nobody, but never documented. It's not in the Bitcoin white paper. And I believe it was set up by these later alternative currencies that call themselves, well, they're not currencies, Ponzi scheme tokens, that call themselves like version 2 of Bitcoin or version 3 or something like that. Like, they just use hype words. It's Bitcoin, it's the Bitcoin network. Like, use that. Don't if you're saying blockchain to try and describe Bitcoin, don't, because it makes you sound ignorant, stupid, or a scammer. Same with crypto. It's Bitcoin, only Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network. And more so, we just try and talk about Satoshis. We don't even really need to talk about Bitcoin, because it somewhat does have a bit of a bad PR problem. Like, people think it's boiling the oceans or something, where it's speeding up the advent of renewable energy because it makes it profitable. Bitcoin miners, which use the energy and turn it into energy 2.0, they can just do it with an internet connection. Quite commonly, it's done with natural gas flaring. Well, otherwise, with natural gas, which would otherwise just be flared, and they do flare it because otherwise, if they just let it go or burn it, because otherwise, if they just let it go into the atmosphere unburnt, it's like 97,000 times more destructive to the environment than if it's burnt. But if you put it through a motor and then, that runs a generator and turns it into electricity, it reduces the emissions even by just, it reduces the emissions from flaring substantially a lot. So, and other, that flaring is just wasted energy. It's called stranded energy, which you can get with, solar panels, like the height, dams and stuff like that, when it's producing energy, but it's not being used. Like at nighttime, or the batteries are full, you can't store it anymore, it will just be burnt off. Like in the case with solar panels, sometimes people have like a heater, and the heater just turns on because the batteries are, when the batteries are full, like they just boil the hot water cylinder or something. So it makes renewable energy profitable because you can turn it into money. It doesn't have to be used. And Bitcoin is not the first digital currency, magic internet money. The first was in 1982. I used to think it was 1992, but no, before I was born, 1982. So the internet was still around. Magic internet money made its debut in 1982. They all failed, like all the altcoins will fail after Bitcoin. There was many before Bitcoin, but the problem that was solved by Bitcoin was it had immaculate conception. So there's, the creator is gone, and even if they're like anonymous, nobody knows who he is, and it doesn't matter. Even if we did know, if he came back and moved some coins, it doesn't really matter, because it's got its own legs. It's around, it's staying. And I've already covered miners and not nodes. They're quite different. And so a deer with no eyes. Do you know what you call a deer with no eyes? Or you still got no idea? What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs? Still no idea? Well, it was good having a little rant, get some stuff off my chest, a little practice. Haven't done this stuff in a long time, but I'll start doing it more, interviewing some smart minds around Bitcoin. And keep in touch.